Hey, good morning, guys. We are in Mexico, and it's a little tricky for me to get away in a place that doesn't disturb other people's sleep. So, I it may not the volume might not be great, but hopefully it'll be good enough for you guys to hear. It's January 6th. Chambers deals today with worship, and he talks about Abraham pitching his tent between two towns, the town of Ai, which he says represents kind of the world, and Bethel, which represents kind of the land of God or the blessing of God. And there's two different concepts he deals with in today's devotional. One is a spiritual blessing that you get from the Lord, and what that becomes if we don't immediately return it, or at least with an open hand give it back to God. He compares it to manna, which, if you don't know the story of manna, God delivered it to the Israelites every day, every morning in the wilderness when they were between Egypt and the Promised Land, and they were wandering in the wilderness. He would deliver manna from heaven. It would settle on the ground. They would collect it, and it would last exactly a day. They would rot if they tried to keep it overnight. So if they tried to hoard it, it would rot the next day. And then except for the manna he delivered the day before the Sabbath would last clear to the following day, because they were commanded not to work on the Sabbath. So, which is really interesting. That's an interesting story in itself. But he basically encourages us to make sure when God gives us a spiritual blessing, and that's different than a material blessing, kind of. I guess we could talk about that, but something that God gives us that's a spiritual blessing. He encourages us to make sure that we quickly give it back or put it into service. Maybe that might be a better way to put it. Put it into service and give it back to God, or it'll become what he calls spiritual rot. And then the other concept that he has here is how we spend quiet time, or how we commune with God in the midst of chaos and noise all around us. And he actually, it's funny because Chambers, he always challenges my paradigms, but he says that in this one sentence, he says, quiet days with God may be, and you're thinking, okay, quiet days with God, that can't be bad, right? That's got to be a good thing. He says, quiet days with God may be a snare. And I think that's really interesting, because I think what he's driving at is that we need to learn how to commune with God and have this fellowship with God, this quietness with God in the midst of all the chaos around us. Because if we only commune with God, or we only think that we can really hear from God, speak to God when it's quiet and we're separated from the world. Now, not to say that that's not important. It's just that I think he's saying that if we, for example, the American church, if we only think that we commune with God on a Sunday morning when we're in a different building with music around us, with different people around us, and that's the way, or that's the time that we can focus our energy and commune with God, hear from him, speak to him, and at the expense of the other times when we're in the midst of a work day, we are in the car, in traffic, or whatever, those other times, if we think that it's only reserved, or that communion or that worship with God, or to God, sorry, on Sunday mornings, I think Chambers is challenging that paradigm, and basically, he says, well, he talks about worship, waiting, and work. Those three things, and you guys can dig into that a little bit more. But those three things: worship, waiting, and work, and how we tend to separate them or segment them out, um, and how they need to exist together. So I'll leave you guys with that. It's a little chilly here in Ensenada, but we're gonna get out and work today. I will talk to you guys more tomorrow. Thanks.